Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plaistow Board of Selectmen meeting for January 21st, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:32 p.m. And before we do a roll call, I must read our little caveat. The board, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, is authorized to meet electronically. The board is utilizing GoToWebinar program of the GoToMeeting platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously and throughout the GoToMeeting program, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen to the meeting. The link to the meeting is provided on the town website, and the public may call in for comment at 603-382-5200, extension 290. Watch the meeting on cable TV on channel 17, or you can live stream the meeting at livestream.com/Plaistow. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question by email, please email Beth Hossack at plaistow.com by 3 o'clock. And questions and comments will be received by then, will be read at the meeting. So, may I have a roll call, please?
Select Chair, Ms. Hart.
Here.
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Talion.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Kishka.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Blinn.
I'm sorry, he's excused.
Selectman Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
And note for the record, we have Town Manager Mr. Pearson joining us remotely, as well as Finance Director Mr. Colby joining us remotely.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Could everyone rise to the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so first item on the agenda was to approve our meeting minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the January 11th, 2021 Board of Selectmen minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, and I do want to compliment Beth on her excellent note-taking, because that was a lot of stuff going on that meeting, so thank you for doing that. Is there any discussion on the minutes or any amendments? Seeing none, I'm going to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? You're going to oppose?
It's roll
Okay,
call.
let me finish the vote, and then you can talk.
It's a
Okay.
roll call.
Pardon?
We have a, oh, sorry, there's no missing member. You're correct.
You do
You're
this to me
correct.
every week. Don't mess me up.
You're correct.
All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Motion carries 4-0-0. Okay, so next we have two people for public comment. So whichever one of you wants to come up first, your name, you know the drill, the name and the address.
Max Dobson, 5 Nicholas Road. I'm actually speaking here as the chair of the Budget Committee. This was discussed in our previous meeting. I just wanted the public, and I'm sure the Board of Selectmen knows from my correspondence, but I'd like the public to know that the warrant article that the Budget Committee requested to be placed on the ballot for the Old Home Day, taking 22.5 out of the unassigned fund balance to fund Old Home Day. Even if we don't have it this year, it's putting it into an expendable trust to protect it so they can use it for another year. And I just want the public to know that that was our intention. And however it shows up on the ballot, it's the selectmen's will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sam, did you need to speak or want to speak? No? Okay. All right, so there is no one else here for public comment. So the first item on our agenda is the transfer of public safety impact fees. And so in your package, you have a memorandum with respect to what is planning to be done. And I'd like to turn that over to Mark, if he would be so kind as to explain what it is and what we're doing. If you could.
Yes.
Thank
So the town collects impact fees, and one of the categories is public safety impact fees. And by law, they must be used or encumbered within 6 years, or they must be given back to the people that contribute. The impact fees can be only used for the purposes designated under the law, and that is for an expansion of a current capacity of a facility or some type of use in town that's related to the collection of those public safety impact fees. We currently have approximately or definitely as of the close of the year, $48,540.27 that are due to expire in 2021. And the finance director and I are recommending to the Board of Selectmen that you make a motion tonight to include the public safety impact fees that are set to expire in 2021 and to apply those to the public safety complex bond debt service principal.
Okay, so you're recommending it go to the principal? All right,
Yes.
okay. And we don't have a draft motion on here anywhere, right? All right, Julian, go ahead.
No, at the bottom of my page, the two ingredients are that you include the amount and that you designate it to go to the public safety bond,
Okay.
complex bond debt service principal.
Okay, go ahead, Julian.
I just want to make the motion.
Oh, excellent,
I'd like to
excellent.
make the motion to apply the amount of the public impact safety fees due to expire in 2021 of $48,540.27 and to be used toward paying down the bond from the public safety impact fees.
The last sentence to apply to the principal? The last sentence on this?
Well, it doesn't make any difference, but to be applied toward the principal.
Okay, so do you have that okay,
And,
Beth?
yeah, go ahead, that's it.
Is that, do you have all that, the motion? All right. May I have a second on that, please?
Second the motion.
Okay, is there further discussion on that? Go ahead, Jay.
Mark, did you guys look at potentially using the money for other items at all?
Well, the quick answer is no, because we don't have a real plan right now to alter anything under the public safety complex. These funds can only be used for something related to the public safety. They're not town-wide. In other words, as you know, the recreation impact fees can only be used for recreation. So we don't have a use for those funds, the $48,540 right now. There is remaining funds that are not going to expire that are in that fund, perhaps another $50,000. So if there is a use that comes up in the near future, we would still have those funds and any new funds that are contributed to that fund, prospectively.
Okay, I should have been more specific. Are there any items within the public safety complex that need to be addressed that this money could be used for?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
Well, hold on one second. Is my understanding that with impact fees, because they are impact fees, they need to do something that either augments or improves a current situation, and I think this is the only one that will allow a bond payment. So unless it's something that is going to improve something like what we did with the rec, it can't
Or
be
like
used for like
purchasing the
budgetary
Jaws of
items,
Life
right? It can't
or,
be used for
you
that.
know,
Right, go ahead,
equipment
Julie.
or.
Thank you
all
for
right.
speaking for me.
Oh, all right, so you're going to say the
I was
same
going to
thing.
say the same thing, but
Okay.
the other thing is, I also see this as, if this is going to go toward that debt, it should reduce that line item in the budget by that same amount. Because we don't need it for the debt service on the budget, because we're applying it from this amount.
I will leave that decision up to our finance director. Go ahead, Greg. No.
Gross budgeting would prevent you from doing that. We have to show the gross amount of the principal, and then we will offset our estimated revenue. So the net amount will be less raised in property taxes, but we should not at all reduce the budget by this.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, do we have any further discussion before we take a vote? All right, so did we get a second on that? Yeah, you did, okay. So all those in favor of applying this money to our principal of our bond debt, say aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is selling town-owned land at 17 Canterbury Forest. And I believe in your package, you have some paperwork from Lewis Builders with respect to the purchase of this. And it's my understanding that the purchase price is approximately $15,000 on page 2. So, Mark, do you want to speak any more to this at all? It's pretty clear cut, but you're welcome to speak if you wish.
Yes, so I was approached by representatives from Lewis Builders that have an interest on a piece of land that is town-owned at 17 Canterbury Forest. So just to give the board a bird's eye view of what that parcel looks like, there is a neighborhood up there. It is a circle, and there is an orphan piece of land that once was thought to be a buildable lot way back at the beginning of the development. And the lot has turned into more or less lowland and wetland and unbuildable. And I'm sure the neighborhood may agree that they would not want to even probably see another house put in there. So the land is currently owned by the town, and that may have been done on purpose from the developer to give that piece of land to the town to not be developed. So Lewis Builders has an interest in this land simply because they own an abutting parcel at 17 Harriman Road, and they would like to add this parcel to their land as a contiguous piece and use some of the frontage on here to meet some of the requirements on Harriman Road. And they would stipulate to not developing this land, not to have it be a buildable lot, although their proposed purchase and sale was pretty presumptuous, and they put language in there that I didn't like. But I had told them that I wasn't going to speak for the board, but that I would recommend to the board that there be a deed restriction that this lot cannot be built on. And so essentially it would stay in the same present form that it's at now, and it would become a taxable piece of property that Lewis Builders would be able to add it to their contiguous piece of property, abutting parcel, and that, you know, the purposes, you know, use it for their purposes of adding frontage to the total piece of property. And I know that they sent in a proposed purchase and sale agreement, but I can assure you I have no intention of signing that. And they also put in that price of $15,000. That's presumptuous because we really didn't discuss a price. I would propose to the board to consider to set a minimum price, and if you decide that you want to sell this piece of land, and that we hire St. Jean's auctioneer to actually have an auction for the property, and the town could receive some revenue yet to be determined.
Okay, questions? Yeah, Greg first, and then Jay, or,
Julian had his hand up before I did.
all right, okay.
Yeah, I just want to know, we're selling public land. Do we might require a public hearing to sell sell town land?
I don't believe so.
Regardless of how little it may be, it is still town land. And I do agree with the suggestion to put it out to bid to get the best price for it. And I'm pretty sure that no one's going to want a piece of land they can't build, and I'm sure Lewis Builders has a little advantage, but to put it to public auction would be fair. And, but I still think if it's public property, I'm not sure, I can't quote the law right now, but I always thought whenever we sold public land, we had some kind of a public hearing so that people could speak on it.
Is that accurate, Mark? I don't recall that, but you would know that more than I would.
Well, I do not recall that there's a requirement for a public hearing.
Right.
I think that we could have one just to be transparent, if it's not required, and that's not a stumbling block or a hurdle. I think that the more that we make it known that this property is going to become available, if that's what the board chooses to do, that's good. And I also agree that we should put it out for a public auction, especially with a previous auction company that's been very successful for the town. And I hope that the board, if the board entertains a motion to do this tonight, that they set a minimum bid price or a selling price for this parcel.
Do you have a recommended minimum price?
You already said so.
No, I didn't. The Lewis Builders said
Right.
that they would like to pay 15,000, but I really don't want to weigh in on what that minimum price should be. I would look to the board to determine that.
All right, go ahead, Greg, and then Jay.
Oh, is this property of any value whatsoever to anybody other than Lewis Builders who are looking to connect this to an existing parcel that they own? Is there any value at all that anybody else would want to bid on this?
Well, there's a neighborhood. There's two adjacent pieces of property that abut this property, and I'm sure that there's some neighbors across the street. I can't speak for any of them if they would have an interest or not. And again, this goes to that if they did, then they could participate in this process.
Okay.
All right, Jay, did you have something to say?
I had a couple questions. So one was what Julian had asked is, do we need to have a public hearing? So I'd like to know if that's
If
something
the
that
board
needs to
is inclined to do so, we will definitely do that. Is there a consensus that you would prefer to do that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
all
to
right,
be
we'll just have to
For
make an
transparency,
arrangement
for
to
people
do
to
it.
know, and I think,
Right.
and then the auction will allow other butters the same opportunity.
Okay.
And I would suggest the minimum price be at least the $15,000.
Okay, did you have any more questions, Jay?
I wouldn't, and then my other question was, so by Lewis Builders getting that piece of land and it increases their frontage, can you explain what that might mean to the general public, to that other piece of property?
Yes. So my understanding from limited conversations with representatives from Lewis Builders is that the Harriman piece of property that they have acquired has some structure on some of the property out there now. And so with a subdivision of that structure and a amount of frontage required to do that subdivision to comply with the zoning, there would be a remaining amount of frontage on Harriman Road. However, it would not meet the requirements, the minimum requirements of frontage per the zoning. So they believe that by acquiring this frontage on this other road, that they would meet the requirements of having the required road frontage, albeit on two different parcels of, or two different roads, that they would meet the requirements and therefore not necessitate Lewis Builders from having to apply for a variance for frontage.
Okay, thank you.
So does that make sense? All right. So if the board is in agreement, I would like to schedule the public hearing for our board meeting on the 8th of February. That will give Beth plenty of time. It'll be after deliberative and all the crazy stuff. So if you guys are in agreement with that. The other issue that I actually would like to bring up, Mark, to you is we have several other town properties that may be sold. And I believe you were talking about Rose Ave as one of our town-owned properties. Is it possible for the board to get an aggregate group of town-owned properties and to make it cost-effective for St. Jean's to do an auction on multiple properties?
The answer is yes, and I think that Rose Ave would be appropriate at this time. I can tell you that when we looked at all of the town properties and did a sale of town-owned properties previously, we actually sold we sold all of the property that was decided to sell at that time. And there were some problems with some parcels that took 2 years to clear up the sale on. So I wouldn't want to go through that process again. I would want to make sure that the properties going up for sale were, there was enough due diligence done on them to make sure that they were not going to be tied up with research and expenses for a couple years. And that means that I would have to have some initial due diligence on this parcel and on the Rose Ave parcel. And I think for the time being, that's all I'd really like to focus on.
Okay.
I think we should wait to see on other parcels, honestly, right now.
Okay. So is it your suggestion that you get together with us at a later date and give us a list of properties that you would like to see sold? And then we can move forward with due diligence and all this, and then go to St. Jean's? Is that the process that you'd like us to follow, or your recommended process?
Yes, and part of the reason is
All right.
that there could be some parcels that we currently own that could substantially change in value because of the water, potable water system being improved. And so I would want to wait to see what that looks like with respect to some properties that may be close or front on the water system.
Okay, so are you saying that this is not really a time-sensitive issue at this point, or is this Canterbury Forest thing a time-sensitive issue for you?
The Canterbury Forest is time-sensitive more for Lewis Builders than for us.
All right.
But since they brought it up, I think it would be good to consider the Rose Ave property, because that was one on our radar. And we did not list the Rose Ave property previously because we were waiting for a time period to pass before we could put it up. And that time period has now passed. So I believe that this would be the appropriate time.
All right, so is an appropriate motion for us to authorize the town to enter into a sale of 17 Canterbury Forest and Rose Avenue after due diligence with St. Jean's Auctioneers at a time that is appropriate once you've done your due diligence?
Yes.
Okay.
moved.
All right, and within that motion, there needs to be a minimum selling price for the
With a
Canterbury.
minimum price of $15,000.
Do you want a minimum price of 15, or do you want a minimum price of 17? Because guess what? You don't go to a house and say, guess what? I'm going to pay you $350,000. They usually offer something, and then you counteract. So I'm guessing it may be a little more than 15 grand. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, what's it gonna cost for the auctioneer?
I think it's 10%, right, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
that
So you want
That
to,
might be a good thing, because it'll cover the cost of the auctioneer.
what do you think, guys?
All right, I can make a motion for the purchase price to be $18,000. That gives us enough leeway.
Minimum bid?
Yeah.
Minimum bid? All right. You okay with that, or you want to?
Well, I thought
Yeah.
17 was more reasonable, because it's less than the 10%, but
What do you think, Jay? What do you want to do?
what you don't want to do is price yourself out.
Okay.
I had another question on, so we're having a public hearing on the 8th?
Yes.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion now to move forward with this, or can we wait until the public hearing is over and then?
My opinion is, and please, Greg and/or Mark, jump in if I'm misspeaking, but it is my opinion that the public hearing is merely a courtesy notification to the town, and that if we put the motion on the floor to get this going, you heard Mark say he has to review the contract, he has to renegotiate the contract, and that will allow him some time to do that and his due diligence for these properties. So I guess my thought is we can make that motion now, unless you guys don't want to do that now, but,
I made the motion
And-
for $18,000.
Yep.
It needs a second before
Yep.
we discuss it further.
yeah, all right, yeah, there does need to be a second on there first. So can somebody second it?
I'll second it.
All right, so that was a continuation of the discussion. I know you are so good about the protocols that I always forget, so thank you. So is that appropriate? Go ahead, Jay.
I forget my question already. Never mind.
All right, so I guess that's my understanding. Go ahead, Jay.
I have one more question. So before we have this public hearing, and as part of your due diligence, Mark, can you look back and try to find out why the town owns this piece of property? Like, was it gifted as part of a land swap, or when this development was put in? I don't know if you can find out that information, but that would just be good information to have as to why we own it,
For the public.
for the public anyway, so.
Right. Right.
Hey, hold on.
We're not in public.
Hello?
Hi, Francine. This is Tim Moore, 33 Sweet Hill Road.
Hi,
I
Tim.
thought, watching on Channel 17, I thought several years ago the Board of Selectmen developed a policy procedure on how to both sell and acquire town-owned property. And I don't remember exactly what that policy was, but
It exists.
I'm pretty sure it did include a public hearing.
Okay, all right, we plan on doing that anyway, and I'm not familiar with it, and I guess I haven't been a selectman long enough to remember that. So we will definitely look that up, and I do appreciate your input in it, but we did plan on doing a public hearing anyway, so thank you, Tim.
Yep, okay, yep, thank you.
All right, you have a good night. Good night. All right,
So,
well, that
Mark,
answers
is
that
that-
question. Go ahead, Julian.
Is that something you can find out before the 8th, or is that going to take longer?
Well, no, actually, I'm okay if the board, doesn't take any action on either property tonight. It's the consensus I was looking for, which I think I hear, the consensus is to probably do some due diligence on Rose Ave and Canterbury Forest, and then bring it back to the board on the 8th, and then after the public hearing, you could make your motions then. And I could probably even have a suggested price or minimum price for Rose Ave, which I'm not prepared to do tonight.
Okay, well, hold on. Julian has a question, and then if you need to withdraw your motions, that'd be good, but go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, well, the question is, I think doing something right now gives our town manager time to make preparations, find out what the price, and make arrangements. It doesn't mean we're not pulling the trigger until after the public meeting.
Right.
So I think this motion does not pull the trigger. It just says we're moving forward, and we're not actually.
It does set a price, and my other question would be. You
could always change
We
that.
haven't set a price for the Rose Ave property, so we're only setting one price. So I would, if Jay
I'll
would,
withdraw my second.
and I would draw the motion.
All right, and I think Mark is looking for a consensus, and I believe this whole board is in agreement that, yes, we want you to look at these properties for sale, and if another one should come up that, in your opinion, would be saleable, that would be great, too. And Greg, I can't see you on the screen, but I thought you had your hand up, and I'm sorry if it's taken so long to recognize you. Did you need to say anything?
No, I was just gonna point of clarification when you were talking about the fee to St. Jean's. It's usually a buyer's premium, paid for by the buyer, not paid for by the town.
Oh, all right, so that's an interesting point. Okay, that's great. Thank you for pointing that out, all right. All right, thank you.
Well, however, I didn't want to confuse things by bringing that up, because to do our
Too
due
late,
diligence.
we're already
is also gonna
confused.
To do our due diligence is also going to cost us perhaps some legal fees.
Okay.
So I think we should wait until
All right.
we know what the legal due diligence is, wait till the public hearing, and then subsequent to the public hearing, if the board wants to move forward with either of these, then we can. Because
Okay,
you'll
great.
have much more information.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Julian, one more.
I just want to make one comment. This is the second time we received the phone call during the meeting. Are we in public meeting, are we in public comment or in hearing right now? Then we should, I understand answering questions, but we shouldn't be answering the phone during the regular course of our meetings because it becomes a bad precedence. We're supposed to only if it's a public hearing or public comment. We just can't keep taking phone calls in the middle of a meeting.
All right, is that the consensus of the board, that if it rings after public comment, we don't answer it? All right, I have no problem with
It's
that.
just the way it
All
has to
right.
be, because
All right.
also you
All right.
you lose total control of your meeting.
Yeah. all
Good
right.
point.
All right, okay. All right, and if there's any irate phone calls to me after the fact, I'm going to refer them to you. Go ahead, Greg.
Mark, could we also ask that you give us a reasonable price for both the Canterbury Forest and the Rose Ave and any other property you have, so that we can do a correct motion after the public hearing?
Yes, I will consult with the assessor.
Okay.
And I will also consult with the auctioneer, if you will,
Okay.
to see what their experience is with different properties, because one of the variables on assessed value versus selling auction property is the type of deed you get. In some cases, you get a tax collector's deed. In other cases, you get something perhaps a little bit better. So that's the variable. So it's not simply what the value of the land is. It's sometimes you can buy land for less money because when the buyer buys it, they're simply just getting they're just getting a bill of sale, and they have to perform their own due diligence, which could cost them a lot of money to clear the title.
Right.
So there's a lot of variables.
Okay.
But I will get an estimate from you on, from a couple of different sources on what they think that the proper value should be.
All right, and that will give you enough time in February to get that done, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me say this, I will work on it, and it's depending on the other people getting back to me with the information.
Yeah,
But
all right,
I will
that's
look
fair.
in-house, I will look at assessing, and I will look at the auctioneer.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And Beth, you have that recorded as a public hearing for the 8th, and you'll do that for us, too. Okay. Any other issues before we go on to the next agenda item, guys? All right, so this is the real meat of the meeting and reason you had to come here on Thursday. And I do want to apologize to you and the Budget Committee for springing these last warrants on them 2 hours before their public hearing. Unfortunately, we did not get these warrants until the very last minute ourselves, and so it is my recommendation to this board that going forward, that you guys establish some kind of a cutoff for accepting warrant articles so we don't run up against this at the last possible minute. So just a suggestion for you guys down the road, okay? So the first warrant article that we need to vote on is the operating budget. Jay, would you read that? It's in your packet, I believe, so could you read that for us, please?
Operating
Aye.
budget, general fund, Article P 2103, shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purpose set forth therein totaling $9,718,746. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $9,806,584, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting, in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 11. To take up the issue of revised budget only, majority vote required. You want me to read the explanation?
No, that's fine. No, it's pretty self-standard explanation. So may I have a motion to approve the operating budget? Someone? All right, I'm going to approve it to move the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, so discussion, gentlemen.
I guess, I don't know, I guess I'll start. I watched some of the meeting, and I didn't see any solid explanations as to what they were reducing the lines for. And I was a little disheartened to see that they wouldn't even discuss our adjustments to those budgets as well. You know, I understand they reduced it, what, 160,000
yeah.
from what we had. So, you know, some of those items that we adjusted, you know, we think they should be in there. But it's, in the end, it's their budget that goes to the deliberative session, so.
Okay. Julian, did you want to weigh in at all on a discussion?
I was highly disappointed. We're supposed to try to work together. We had reasons. If they wanted to vote down our recommendations, that was fine, and I'm quite fine with it, but not even to listen to the recommendations. I found myself at a point, why did I even go to the meeting? We were like, our opinion didn't make any difference. I was just highly disappointed. I'm not disappointed in the entire committee because not everybody was in that same mode. I just don't know what to say. We all put a lot of time and effort into this, most of it our own time, because heck, it is our own time.
I know,
Being
yeah.
on these committees, being on the Board of Selectmen, and we have the year-round thing. We have to come in all the time and review all kinds of stuff. We get put in the middle of everything, even when it's not even our decision. And I just felt slightly slighted at that meeting. I tried to keep an open mind. I don't like to talk back, and I don't want to be barreled. I like to listen in a two-way conversation. People that know me, I'm open always to discussion. Don't have to agree with it, but I'm open to a good discussion. But it didn't happen at last meeting. It's difficult, and I don't want to just say I don't want to approve the budget, but I feel like I almost should, because I'm not sure it was done in a way that justified the budget, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
no,
kind
I
of hard.
do.
It could be
I do.
justified, but I don't have that comfort feeling. It's difficult, but I don't want to tell people to not vote for it,
All right.
because we have to operate the town.
And I do want to let people know who are listening that it is a prerogative of the chair to not consider other recommendations, because you're absolutely right, it is
Yeah.
their budget, and it is a prerogative of the chair to do that, just so we clear the air. But Greg, did you have a comment to make?
Yeah, I have a comment, just to modify something that Jay said. I think it was very, very clear what their purpose was, which was stated by the chair of the Budget Committee, that she basically took last year's budget and said if the town could run on last year's budget, then they could run on this year's budget. And we all know that in our own households, our own finances, that everything goes up. Everything costs more money than it does. And to be able to me, came across as very cavaliering, and versus looking at the individual items, and even after explanation of those items, they still basically cut things that are needed services that the town that the town needs to be able to run. So I was also very disappointed, as Julian is saying, very disappointed the way that came across, and I can't vote for this.
Okay.
I don't think it's a reasonable budget for the town to be able to deliver services that our taxpayers are expecting. They basically have cut all kinds of different areas in kind of a just slash process. That's what I have to say.
Okay, so I'm going to be the last one to weigh in, and I think I am pretty much in agreement with the rest of this board that there were several budgets that were significantly underfunded, and some of those budgets have contractual obligations that the town is required to pay. And in partial defense of the Budget Committee, I'm not sure if they realized that or understood it, but the fact remains is we need to pay those bills. And as Greg said, you know, are you paying the same amount of money for your food today that you paid last year? I'm not. Are you paying the same amount for gas or your, you know, cable bill? No, I'm not. Prices are going up, and sometimes we have to reflect that in our budgets as well. They did a tremendous job of paring down that budget, but I have to know the reasons for things personally. I have to know why $33,000 was cut out of you know, the highway budget, and if it makes sense to me and I agree with it, then that's good. But just to make a number like that without kind of an explanation, I personally need to know why. And so the default budget is about $85,000 more than our operating budget, and in my personal opinion, that seems to be much more in line with some of the numbers that we need. We haven't even properly funded our solid waste budget. And so I am very concerned that if, you know, there is not an addition made at deliberative session, you guys are going to have trash in November and December. Nobody's going to pick that up for you because you don't have enough money in your budget. So these are some of the issues that I'm a little bit concerned about. So, you know, that default budget seems to be a little bit more in line with what I think the town needs to do its services with. But go ahead, Julian.
Yes, you're right. The budget, a lot of members of that Budget Committee they've done a fine job in bringing the budgets down. I mean, I was trying to present that we didn't even have enough in that budget to cover the contract for trash, which is a
Right.
big issue right now.
Right, I know.
And they're trying to add to it, yet
I know.
we don't even have enough to cover the contract we're thinking about,
Right.
when they wouldn't even listen to that part.
Did try hard, though. I know you did.
Well, you can, I know that people do things with good intention. And I tell you what, I never thought I would ever vote against our own budget.
Yeah,
I didn't think it would ever come to this.
not me either.
But you're right, we're short about $80,000 just to cover the current possible contract for trash. And that would actually add that back in with the default budget. I feel This is a weird situation for me.
Yeah, I think you're not alone in that. I don't think anybody's ever voted against it. But is there any more discussion before we do take a vote?
You can always change it if things change, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you know, the initial thing is deliberative session is going to determine what gets added or subtracted to it, and then we can always vote a final vote then. But go ahead, Jay, you had another comment.
I just, you know, one of the comments that was made at the meeting was, you know, well, they're just going to spend it the way they want anyway. And like you said, you got to go through the lines and give reasons for these cuts. And I just can't in good conscience vote for this because I don't have any valid reasons for these changes other than if we can survive on last year's budget, then we can do it again for another year. That's not reason enough for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Any further discussion?
We'll
before we
get
vote?
through this and we'll survive.
Yes, we will. And ultimately, I just want to also point out, guess what? It's not our warrants and it's not the Budget Committee's budget. It's the townspeople. And they are the ones that will ultimately tell us what they are able and willing to do. So we're here for guidance. They elected us to make decisions for the majority of the taxpayers, and they will ultimately tell us a week from Saturday what's going to happen. So if there's no more further discussion, all those in favor of approving this
Madam
operating
Chairman?
budget? Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chairman, can I-
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Would you
I can't
indulge
see
me
anybody
in-
on the screens. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Would you let me make a minor comment? It's going to be factual based. It's not going to be opinion. If you'd allow me to make a comment relative to this discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So-
Go ahead.
So we have approximately 34 separate budgets that come before the town manager and the finance that we present to the Board of Selectmen. And just a walk back to September, October timeframe, when the finance director and I, after receiving budgets from ostensibly 34 different departments, including the library, which we were in communication with them, 33 of them collectively was an increase, a total increase collectively of $16,000 in a $9.7 million budget. So when we came and proposed a budget to the Board of Selectmen, it was pretty close to almost a level funded budget. Now, there was one variable, and that was the fire department that had asked for approximately $65,000 net, because it was more, but part of that got moved to a warrant article. So the 34th out of the 33 net was 16,000 increase. And then when you add in the fire department, that was a 65. So I just wanted to bring the facts to this discussion. And there's one more thing that I must at least bring up in good conscience to not only you, but anybody listening, is that we are in the middle of a pandemic. We had that unexpectedly come our way in 2020. It got worse right up until the end of the year, and we're still in the surge, and we don't know what we're going to face in 2021 as it comes to expenses. We were fortunate enough in 2020 that there was some relief valves, there was some grants, there was the gopher funding that came through the CARES Act that came to the state. There was a grant that the fire chief did get to offset that 24-hour coverage. He also has asked for some supplemental funding for that to cover at least until the March town meeting. So it hasn't been that we haven't reached out to look for additional sources, because we have, but I can tell you that we don't have a blueprint of any aid that is going to come to the towns or cities in 2021. And why I bring that up is, if we essentially proposed a level funded budget for 2021 and had minor increases for 33 budgets totaling $16,000, and yet the cut by the budget committee was deeper than that, and it was to reduce down the budget by 160,000. And there's been no consideration really put into what the trash is going to cost. I just want to bring up to everybody now and be on the record to say that if there is not enough money in the trash budget, then there's going to have to be some serious decisions made when the money runs out of the trash line item, which would naturally be towards the end of the fiscal year, so November, December. And, you know, one would say, well, you just go, it's a bottom line budget. You go to the rest of the budget and you just, you know, take money from the other departments. Well, if we're already down 160,000 in the ostensibly the 33 or 34 other budgets, there is no other place to go to get the money. So I just want to be on the record to say, this is a slippery slope. And I do not think that there's adequate funding to run our town and deliver the same services in 2021 that the public did get to enjoy in the previous years. So I will end there. Thank you for letting me speak.
Well said, and I think you have echoed perhaps the sentiments of this board as well. So if there is no further discussion, I'd like to take a vote to approve the operating budget. All those in favor say aye. Nay?
Nay.
Nay?
No.
All right, opposed, so the motion fails 0-4-0. Okay. Go ahead, Julian.
I know you skipped 2102, but I just want to make a comment on that.
Which one? I'm sorry.
2102, the one before, water incentive
Oh, the water
program.
service, okay.
And I'm so disappointed that there would be a vote to not allow people the opportunity to hook up to something where we know we need users to make the program successful. It's almost I almost felt like it was an attempt to sabotage the program, because this first round of getting people hooked up is probably the most important step in getting the public water working. And if so many users can't hook up and we don't get the right circulation, it's going to make it very difficult to keep the water system operating properly for people, and also it's going to probably raise their rates for everybody.
Well-
So I feel disappointed that someone would vote against making this is not about a charity. This is about making the program successful. This is an incentive. This is not, we're just going to give you money because we want to. This is an incentive to get people on board, to get the water flowing to start with. And I know the town manager's explained this many, many times. And just because of the word and betterment, because some people have this insane fear of the word betterment, and I'm not going to say the names who've been spreading that rumor to everybody that it's such an evil word. It depends on legalese where it's used and how it's used. That was probably one of my biggest disappointments in that meeting, is I just saw it as something, I know I personally talked about water 6 years ago because I knew it was a problem, and I'm seeing something coming to possibly a successful end and seeing something that may cripple it.
Well, I think, I'm going to tell you that we do have an opportunity at deliberative session to promote this, and probably not tonight, but definitely Monday, we are going to assign each other warrant articles, and if you want to spearhead that particular article to explain it to the public, you may be the best person to do that, but we'll table that for now and discuss it on Monday, but, you know,
Just to make
I
it clear,
agree
I'm
with
not
you.
one of the people that's going to hook up because it doesn't go past my
I know,
house.
me neither.
And
All
I got
right.
a wonderful well, but I never know. It could be, next year it could be polluted.
I know, but we do need to move on with the agenda and finish off these
Make sure
core
we make a
warrants.
comment on that.
Okay, and that's noted, but we do need to finish off these warrants because Greg Colby will be here till midnight fixing this up so that we can put this all to the ballot. So we're gonna move on with that. Okay, so the next item is on page 6, I believe. And the one that we did not vote for was the funding for repair and construction to fix the cap of the landfill. Greg, you want to take that one, please, if you don't mind?
Certainly. Funding
Thank you.
for repair and construction to fix the cap of the Plaistow landfill. Article P21-11, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $575,000 to fund, 1, the work for the Plaistow landfill closure to comply with DES regulations, 2, construction, engineering, and permit oversight, 3, construction contingencies, 4, removal of the old salt shed, 3, tire removal. The funds will be withdrawn from the general fund unassigned fund balance. The special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, 6, and will not lapse until the completion of the landfill cap repair and construction is completed or by December 31st, 2022, whichever is sooner. Majority vote required. Total
Okay.
appropriation, $575,000. Withdraw from the general fund unassigned fund balance, $575,000. No amount to be raised by new taxation.
All right, thank you, sir. May I have a motion on the floor to approve this, please?
Make a motion that we put this motion on the
To ballot? Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, discussion, guys.
Jay, go first.
Could I bring up a minor correction?
Sure.
In the parentheses after 4, can you make tire removal parentheses 5?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have to do a little bit of housekeeping on this because some of the numbers aren't consecutive either, Mark, so that was what I was going to do at the end of the day. But thank you for making that note. You have eagle eyes. You're really good. You must be an attorney. Oh, my. Okay, so discussion on this for you guys. What are your thoughts on this? What are you thinking? Go ahead, Julian.
Hey, the tire removal is only the surface tire removal, not the ones that are buried? You get clarification on that?
Yes, so I'm kind of glad you asked that question. So
We don't know what's on
the lowest price from a contractor was $413,000. There's a contingency that is usually with every contract, and there's also the construction engineering and oversight. And depending if the contingency does not get used up, that's why we went to 4, which was removal of the old salt shed, which I think would be a minor expense, and that's why we went to 5, tire removal, for the remaining funds to remove as many tires as possible that are percolating outside of the landfill cap. So it is not to remove entirely the tires that perhaps are buried, but you do have your percolation out of tires that are on top of the landfill.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up, someone's going to come the next year or the year after, if one tire gets found saying we did not follow the warrant article. So the warrant article says take the tire removal. It doesn't say where you stop. And I know there's people in this town that would pick that apart. We've seen that already recently. I also know that it's not a requirement to happen this year, so.
Right, all right. So I guess actually that begs the question of both of you gentlemen. Greg, do you feel, given that observation, do we need to revise the language on this, in your opinion?
I don't know.
I think it's general enough that it doesn't specify. It says tire removal, but it doesn't say, I don't know, but.
True.
You have to send this off to the DRA anyway, right? So maybe we should let them weigh in on that?
If we added the
can.
word,
Yeah,
if we added the word partial tire removal, would that suffice?
Or as practical, tire removal is practical.
all right. Jay, what were you going to say?
Another question, but I think tire removal is probably fine because we're not
It's
specifying it's outside.
General enough, yeah.
Over here, and it's
All right.
buried underneath the cover, so.
All right, and so I think maybe obviously we have to defer
DRA
to
will
the.
have to weigh in on
We have
that.
to defer to the DRA anyway, they're the bottom line
I
on
don't
that.
think it's a
but go ahead.
DRA issue the way it's worded. It's a matter of how it's going to be interpreted down the
Yeah,
road if it
that's
passes.
true, that's true. All right, so anybody else want to have any more comments on that before we take a vote? Go ahead, Jay.
So, Mark, I was going to ask, can this be spread out over a couple-year period, or is there a particular reason why we're trying to do it all at this point in time? Or you're recommending to move forward with this?
Okay, so the construction contract, the answer is no, it cannot be spread out, and here's why. The construction contract is very specific to how you open up the landfill, and then how you fill it, and how you cap it. And it's not something you can do half now and half later.
Okay.
So that's the answer why you can't spread it out over time. And therefore, you have one set of construction documents, and they have proposed prices to do the work based on doing the complete job, not spread out over 2 years, which I'm not sure DES would even allow you to do, because the purpose of the cap is to prevent water infiltration into a cap that pushes out the stuff below it, which leaches out around the perimeter that causes the leaching. So, and then the contingency is directly related to the actual construction project. So the first three, number 1, 2, and 3, are really the meat and potatoes of this warrant article. Should there be some remaining funds because the contingency was not fully used up, that's why 4 and 5 were introduced, because we would want to remove the old salt shed, and we would want to remove the tires percolating out. So it's quite possible, if the contingency is all used up, we would not do any tire removal because the funds would be exhausted. So I hope that that answers your question. It cannot be spread out over 2 years.
Okay, thank you. And I kind of knew the answer to that just from our previous discussions, but someone did ask me that question, and I wanted to just have your explanation in public. I did some quick math, and with that warrant, it looks like we're taking, if all the warrant articles pass where we're taking money out of the unassigned fund balance, it comes up to $817,000. Is that, what does that do to our unassigned fund balance and our minimum requirements to keep a specific limit?
I'm going to preempt Mark's answer by telling you, Jay, that Greg and I just had that exact conversation with Mark this morning.
Okay.
And I will let you answer it. And then Julian, you had a comment again?
I just want to be clear. This funding, $575,000 in this warrant article, will do all the work for the landfill, or is there going to be something else coming the year after? Is this total completion or just to get ready for it?
This is it.
I just wanted Mark to answer that this is all of it. Because there was discussions earlier that might do something here, and then we got to do something afterwards. And I want to be able to answer that question too if I get asked. And I want to know too whether I want to vote for it. Is this going to be a done deal for the near future?
Okay,
Mark?
so I cannot give you a short answer to that. I'm going to give you a truthful answer, though. So, and I'm going to have to go back in time. Let's just say 30 years ago, the landfill was capped. Caps don't last forever. Things happen because of settling. We're addressing the settling in the middle of the landfill now that has settled, and the cap is deficient. This is to fix the landfill portion that has collapsed and needs to be restored to the standards required by New Hampshire DES. Why I'm telling you that is, what happens if next year or 2 years or 3 years from now, there's another section of the landfill that does the same thing? I'm not going to be on the record to say that the fix in 2021 is going to be a one and done, and you're never going to fix this again. I do not have a crystal ball to tell you where this site will settle at some future date. It could possibly settle. It could not settle. I don't know the answer to it. And that's part A. Part B is that there is ongoing monitoring that is required for this site with respect to methane and other things that are happening on the site. That will continue because a landfill is a liability into perpetuity, because it is buried municipal waste that creates methane gas and settles over time and will continue to do it. One would think that most of the settling will have already occurred now 30 years into it. But I'm not a scientist to tell you that it won't settle more or that we won't have another issue that comes up, because I do not have a crystal ball to tell you what that might or might not be. This is specific to the deficiency of the cap in the middle of the landfill right now, and this is the plan to fix the middle of the landfill right now. I do not know of any other expected deficiency in the years to come. So there is nothing I am hiding, but I want to be clear that I also cannot predict the future.
Okay, that's fair. Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you don't have a crystal ball, neither do I. I just wanted to make, I basically, the key word was one of your last sentences was my answer. And none of us can predict what'll happen. My big thing was near future, which means we'll be long and gone. The landfill is forever. You can constantly probably say that the landfill is forever. People who started that landfill didn't realize that in the past. Even though we stopped using it a long time ago, it's there forever, and it will become an expense in the future. But the reason I asked it, make sure, because sometimes we've had other things in the past where we started something, and it was more for engineering costs, but not the actual work. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And the other thing is, I know we've been talking about in the Energy Committee and down the road, talking about a solar field, and we want to make sure that this is the work that's going to make sure that that could move forward in the future.
Right.
And we know the land's going to, we were at the meeting when the engineers came and explained it, and they're actually going to raise that more to allow for a little more settlement.
Yeah.
So we understand that. I just wanted to be clear on that. This is not a phase. This is the work for the near future with nothing to be guaranteed. This is it, to fix the landfill until sometime in the, let's say,
Hopefully
further
far
future.
distant future.
Further future.
Yes. And Greg, you had a
Thank you for your
comment?
answer.
Okay, you had a comment, Greg?
I have two comments, Mark. One, if this was to be put off, my guess is, and I know you can't see into the future, my guess is that this price of $575,000 would go up. And secondly, if we ignore this, I believe there's a possibility that the DES would do what? I'll let you answer that question. What would DES do if we decide not to do this work?
So the first question was about the price increasing. In construction, I don't think I've ever experienced prices in construction to ever go down. Prices of material go up, price of fuel is factored in, and the cost of materials and supply and demand. We just experienced that with the COVID. You can see it in materials, and that's, ancillary to this discussion.
And labor.
The second point, what's that?
I said, and labor.
And labor. And the second part of the second question was, help me with the second part, the second question.
If we did not do this work, what would the DES do?
So we have been on the radar screen with this landfill. We are not mandated at this point in time, but with our reports that are mandatory, that are contracted with our consultant, DES is aware of our deficiencies, and it was only a matter of time before we were going to come up and then be mandated. So we're being proactive, and I know some people don't like the concept of being proactive, but I will say this about being proactive: it will cost you less in the long run if you're proactive and take care of a problem that you know you're going to have to fix at some point in time. To fix it now than later. The saying, you could pay now, you can pay later, it really should be, you can pay less now or you can pay more later, because that's what that's what will happen. So it will be mandated, and you will be under a consent decree from DES, and it's going to be more expensive.
Thank you.
So it's basically not a question of if, but when. So I'm going to take one more question, and then I'm going to call for a vote. Go
I
ahead,
was
Jay.
just going to go back to my question about the unassigned fund balance, the
Yes.
817.
Can we just finish this, or do you want me to answer that? Because we had that exact conversation. It's an extreme amount of money. We did talk to Mark about whether that's going to drop us below critical levels. And basically, we have to keep, and actually, Greg Colby, you could probably answer this better for us, between 8 and 15% of our total responsibilities, our total expenditures. So that includes the school as well. So I think we're looking at, if we have to keep a reserve of about, a percentage of about $35 million. But go ahead, Greg, I will let you speak because you know me in numbers.
Well, I mean, the estimate that we have right now is around 2.6. So when Jay had mentioned the use of 800, that'll bring us down to 1.8. And yet the recommendation is 5 to 17 or 18% of appropriations, including the amount that's raised for the county and the school. So it will drop us, obviously, into single-digit percent, which is below, I think, the 10%, which is the fund balance the board adopted a few years ago as the target rate, to maintain. So it does do that. I still think that the town's in a fairly healthy shape, and with the number of reserve funds, that don't get added into that calculation, but really, should be, it's not where, short term, I think we're okay, I guess, if that answers.
Yeah, and we also discussed the fact that there is a warrant article to remove that land appropriation for $100,000. We're also talking about selling town-owned property. So we're looking at maybe $300,000 or $400,000 potentially that come back into the coffers in the unassigned fund balance. So that's going to offset a little bit too, because Greg and I was really scared about that this morning, and that's my first question to Mark this morning is, what if all this stuff passes? Are we going to be in critical shape? And obviously you heard from our finance director, who I trust implicitly, that we're not going to be in danger, and we do have a mechanism to replenish some of those funds. So that makes me feel more comfortable. And wouldn't it be a miracle if all of these things did pass? That would be very cool too. So without further ado, can I take a vote on whether to approve this or not? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, great. That motion carries 400. The next warrant that we need to vote on, I believe, is on page 7. And Julian, could I ask you to read that one? It's P2115 for the fire apparatus capital reserve. On page 7, middle of the way. All right.
Page 7.
My glasses are still blurred out for some reason.
I know,
Anyway,
I can't see with my mask on.
All right, deposit into the apparatus capital reserve. Article P2115. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $140,000 to be added to the existing department apparatus capital reserve fund? Furthermore, name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from the fire department apparatus capital reserve fund. Majority vote required. Total appropriation, $140,000. Amount to be raised by new taxation, $140,000. Balance in the fire department apparatus capital reserve as of December 31st, 2020 is $365,514.31.
Okay, may I have a motion to recommend, please?
Make a motion that we place this warrant on the ballot.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, gentlemen? No discussion for you. What about you, Jay?
Just want to reiterate the explanation that this is a capital reserve account that we put money away every year to help keep our fleet up to speed and, move equipment in and out when it comes up for that. So it's something we've been doing for a while now. So I think it's
All right,
good.
Greg, do you have a
Good
comment
plan.
at all?
Yeah, I have a comment. We have been funding the fire department with a number of warrants. We put a fairly large sum of money into the department. I'm concerned that this is, while I agree that you need to put away money into your capital reserve to purchase long-term expenses, I'm not so convinced that we need to do this right now, and for two reasons. One, we are not planning to purchase a Tower 3. We are right now talking about leasing one. So that's going to be a lower cost than if we have to repurchase it outright. I know that the Tower 3 that we currently have, or the fire truck that we currently have, is old. We have not used it very often, and we also have our surrounding towns providing their equipment if we did have a fire, just like we go to their fires and support them. So I'm not too concerned about not having equipment to fight fires, and I think we could put this off until next year. That's my thoughts.
Do you have a comment, Julian? Go ahead.
Yeah, now I just got new information that I got surprised by. I thought they first they wanted a new Tower 3, that warrant article never went in, and a bond. And now it's like, I thought we were going to spend money and repair Tower 3, just replace all the sensors and switches and things like that, which, as far as I remember, because I've been at the CIP meetings before, that was the problems. Instead of buying a whole new vehicle. And we've proved with the highway departments that you can make basically almost looks like a brand-new vehicle, replace all the parts, and have a new vehicle without actually buying an entire new vehicle, as long as the chassis isn't rotted out. So this is another surprise. You're telling me now they're looking at leasing. I never heard that until just now.
That's news to me, too, so.
So I'm a little up in that. I didn't know that, for one thing, especially when you're talking about this kind of money. And you're right. We have mutual aid. My neighbor's house was on fire a few years back. Mr. McCarroll showed up like that. He's like going up the road before I could even get out of the house. Then next thing, the entire May Ray Avenue had fire trucks on it from every town around here, almost instantly, it seemed.
All right. So,
mutual aid works.
okay.
And we have a lot of good fire departments, other than Plaistow, which is a great fire department. We've never had any fires that didn't get taken care of. I know other towns, they tell me that they live in, they says, yeah, we haven't seen a fire yet where the house hasn't burned to the ground. I mean, literally, they make comments like that. I never heard that in Plaistow.
All right, we're getting a little bit off the subject now, so if you want to.
I'm just adding to the fact
clarify.
that maybe
All
this
right.
is not the year for this.
All right.
And I'm probably going to say this on a few other ones as well. It's not that I don't support the fire department, and they do a fantastic job. We have a great fire department, but maybe this is not the year to ask for this
And
money.
I would kind of concur with Greg's observation. 3 of the warrant articles are for the fire department this year, and they total almost $400,000, which is a significant amount of what we are appropriating, and I would tend to agree with that. I think this is something that can possibly be postponed till next year until we really find out what it is they want to do with the fire truck. Do they want to float a bond? Do they want to lease it? Do they want to repair it? And we don't know that yet. So if there's no other comments on this, I'm going to take a vote. All those in favor? Or do you want to have one more? Go ahead,
So
Jay.
did this come out of the CIP?
Yes.
That we were going to do the 140?
Yes, and unfortunately, as I said, it came at the 11th hour, and it was too late. It came after our last meeting in December, and it came before our January 11th meeting, and that was why we never floated the bond out, because we needed notice, and it was too late. And that's why I suggested to you guys, you have a cutoff time at the end of this year where you don't accept any more warrant articles, because we'd be doing this forever. So anyway, if you're going to take a vote on this, all those in favor of recommending this, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right, so that motion is not recommended by a vote of 1-3-0. All right, so I'll take the next warrant article. It's the Expendable Trust Fund for Old Home Day. Article P2116. Shall a town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,500 to be added to the Old Home Day Expendable Trust Fund previously established? Total appropriation, $22,500. Amount to be raised by new taxation, $22,500. And if you recall, we just had our budget chair and vice chair come in to explain to us that they had preferred to have that taken out of the unassigned fund balance. So I have a comment to make about this, and I want to run this all by you before we vote. This was a warrant article that was suggested by one of the Budget Committee members. And I think there were 3 issues that they had. The first primary issue was that they were probably sure that Old Home Day was not going to happen this year because of COVID. And I personally have a tendency to agree with that conclusion. I don't think that's going to happen. The other 2 issues that were raised by the chair was the fact that they did not want this money, should it not be used, they didn't want it to go into the unassigned fund balance at the end of the year, nor did they wish to have it spent on any other items, because as you know, it's a bottom line budget, and if we run into trouble, we tag from other budgets if we have to. So I guess my thought to this is they solved their own problem by just taking it out of the budget. It's a simple, elegant solution, and it solves all 3 problems. So I'm not even sure we need to put it on as a warrant. By taking it out of the budget, it solves all of those problems. So I guess I'm going to throw that out to you guys as far as comments.
I'll make a
Sure.
motion first that we would put this onto the ballot, this
Do
warrant.
you want to put it onto the ballot?
I
or
said
we-
that.
you
I said
are-
I'm making a motion
Okay.
for this to go onto the ballot, for this
All right.
warrant to go onto the ballot.
All right, could I have a second before more
second that.
discussion? Okay, all right, did you want to make a comment, Julian?
Well, it's not, the motion to put it on the ballot is not, I have a discussion for the vote, but not for the discussion to put
Okay.
it on the ballot.
All right, do you want to vote for that first then? Okay, so, all right, go ahead, Jay.
So do we know for sure that it's being canceled, or it may be at a later, potentially a later date?
So
We
that's-
don't have a crystal ball,
Right,
right?
yes, no, none of us do. So that's an excellent point, and I guess my thought is if people were expecting to do this later on during the course of the year, like in the fall perhaps, it's very easily added onto the budget at deliberative session.
Tell you the truth, if we ever decide to have it, if there's 22,000 available, we could still have Old Home Day if we really wanted it. It's not going to, if this was somehow voted down, it wouldn't prevent Old Home Day.
Right.
We had the.
Right,
the-
it's a
the
very
next Board of
popular
Selectmen
event.
still has the
Yep.
power to have it.
Yep, yep. So, all right, so do we have a motion and a second on that?
A motion and a second, and we're discussing it now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my concern with this is that this has been a budgeted item for years and for decades. We basically put money in the budget and we run Old Home Day. And if there's an opportunity where we don't run this, then we allocate the money, appropriate the money the following year to do Old Home Day again. So because this was a budgeted item, it seemed to be appropriate that the warrant article would basically be a raising taxation for this, is what the budget would have accomplished. And I'm really concerned that they were so assured to take this out of the budget that they should have said, we're not going to have Old Home Day, so we're taking this out of the budget. If they had any indication whatsoever that we were going to have this in September or October or some other time frame, then they should have left it in the budget. And the worst that would have happened is this money would have gone into the unassigned fund balance and would not get spent for this particular purpose. So that's, I'm concerned. I also am concerned that not only do we have a current COVID-19 problem, we have the vaccination process is not happening as fast as we would have expected it to. And we also have some advanced strains of COVID-19 that have been discovered into the country, and some of them have been showing up in Massachusetts. So I have very limited belief that we are going to do Old Home Day this year.
Okay. Any other comments before we take a motion to even put it on the warrant?
No,
ahead.
not just put
No?
it on, no.
All right, so any, vote to put this on the warrant. All those in favor to put it on the warrant?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So it's a 2-2 vote, and so it doesn't pass. So we're going to take it off the
Okay,
warrant.
I'll just make one comment.
Go ahead, yeah, sure.
I was actually excited. I know what the little plan and the conspiracy that we're going to spend everything that's on the bottom line budget, and I understand where that's coming from. However, I was excited when they put this on here because you know why? I've never seen a vote in this town since I've been here on how many people really wanted Old Home Day or who didn't want Old Home Day. This would have been also an opportunity to see how many of the residents, besides the vocal group that we have and the people who show up every year, how many of the entire residents really support Old Home Day? And I was excited to see what the results would be, but now we won't see.
Well,
So
you know
I'm a
what?
little disappointed. Not that I was going to vote for it if it had gone on, it's that I wanted to see the vote.
Well, you know what, we can, there is always an opportunity at
know.
deliberative, and you will probably see that at our deliberative session, where if people want to put that back on, they can certainly add it onto the budget, but as I expressed before, by just taking it out of a budget, it satisfied all three of the requirements that the chair requested. It's not going to be in unassigned fund balance, we're not going to spend it because it's not in there, and we're probably not going to have it in the first place, so
If things get better,
it's done.
I'm not afraid that we won't get Old Home Day because we can find 22,000.
Sure.
We'll find some way to do it and
Yep,
pull it off.
yep, I agree.
So if things get really good unexpectedly by summer,
Okay,
we'll make it, I'm sure this board, or whoever's on the board, will make it happen.
all right,
So
so
I'm not
that's.
afraid of it going away because it didn't get
It's never
budgeted.
going to go away, no, it's just off the warrant, that's all. So the last one, I think that we have two more that we need to do, and time's getting late, so we'll move this along. Citizens petition, go ahead, Greg.
Citizens petition for recycle pickup. Article P21-17, shall the town of Plaistow enter into a multi-year contract for recycling services and raise and appropriate a sum not to exceed $295,000 for the purpose of funding the first 12 months of this contract. Majority vote required.
Okay, motion on the floor to recommend,
I'll make a motion that we recommend, that we put this on the ballot.
okay, and.
I'll second.
Second for Jay, okay, discussion?
That's 2117?
Yes. On
Yeah,
the
the
end of
numbers,
page 7.
every one of these have different numbers. Right.
Did you want to talk first? Go ahead. I was going to put my hand up. Oh, okay.
All right, go ahead, Greg, and then Julian.
So my concern with this motion is that if the motion passes, how we are going to convince a vendor to only do 12 months of a contract. I don't think we can do a multi-year contract with this because we basically have enough money, or possibly enough money, to do the carts, the base price, and then the
Tipping fee.
the tipping fee.
Yeah.
So we're very, very tight on this one. And so I have a little bit of concern. And I think there's another part that we need to be transparent. If we want a multi-year contract, we need to communicate to the taxpayers how much that multi-year contract is going to cost, even though we only appropriate the first year. Is that correct? Is that the right approach?
It's
That when we do
Sanbornizing.
things?
It's an evergreen clause, yeah.
So we don't have the ability of telling our citizens how much this is going to cost for the next 5 years. We basically just have a one-year contract is what we have here.
All right, Julian?
I don't believe that this restricts you from, if you get a deal, that you can do, restricts you from a 5-year contract, because it says right in here for funding the first 12 months. If you do a 5-year contract, it will end up being in the subsequent budgets in the years that follow if you make a contract. It just doesn't prevent you from making a 5-year contract. It just says it funds it for the first 12 months. It's specific. It's enough for the first 12 months. It doesn't say anything about what you do thereafter. It doesn't stop you from doing a 5-year contract. Any contract we make, if you went to that logic,
Yeah?
we would never be able to do a contract because it's not been voted on. We make a contract with to something that services the town needs,
Yeah.
and we decide to accept that contract. The contract is a done deal.
Okay, go ahead, Greg. And Jay, did you have a comment? No.
So,
Yeah, yes?
when we are creating a multi-year contract, we put it on the warrant, and we tell the taxpayers, this is what it's going to cost the first year, that's what we're going to appropriate, and this is how much it's going to cost the second year, third year, the fourth year, and the fifth year. We don't know that, and we will not be able to tell the taxpayers that until next year.
Okay, so,
unfortunately.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but,
Let me finish. So that's why I was confused, Julian. I wasn't saying that we couldn't do a one-year contract. I'm saying you can't do a multi-year contract. Yes, you have the money to do the first year, but you you don't have any numbers here to show the taxpayers what it's gonna cost them for the next 4 years. And I think that's something that we have done by warrant. Here's the contract, here's what it's costing the first year, and here's what it's gonna cost for the years 2 through 5.
Okay. So I'll let you answer, and then Jay's going to comment. Go ahead.
Okay, you say we can't do a 5-year contract without a warrant article. Well, we're right now talking about doing a 5-year contract for trash, and there's no warrant article. So
Exactly.
that disagrees with your argument that you have to have a warrant article to do a 5-year contract. We're in the process of doing one right now, and it's done every time these things come up, just like the cable company or whatever. We do 5-year contracts all the time, and it does not go to warrant article. So if in your argument, we've been violating the law since before I was born.
All
So-
right, I have a resolution to that
Okay.
from the NHMA, but I'm going to let Jay speak first. Go ahead.
Well, that was going to be my question, was I don't ever recall when we renewed the trash contract or another trash contract that we voted on it at town warrant, because it's a contract for services, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that, if we want to be transparent, yeah, we can put one out there to say, but I don't believe this needs to go on a warrant, but maybe you have more information.
Okay, so I did contact NHMA because, in my opinion, this citizen's petition was poorly worded and not with the intent that I believe these people signed this petition. So I gave it to Nash, who's our NHMA rep, and said, what up with this? What do we do with it? And his response is, this is a separate warrant article, not part of the operating budget, and if it passes, the money would be raised by taxation for the purpose of entering into a recycling contract for a 1-year period of time. The select board is the authority which determines whether and when to enter into a contract, including those called for by petitioned warrant articles such as this. So that means while the money would be raised and could only be used for this specified purpose, unless the select board decides to enter into a recycling contract, the money would not be used and would lapse in accordance with the lapse statute. So this tells me that the board has authority to whether to enter into a contract and when to do it, as long as it's a 12-month period of time,
For 1 year.
12 months, a 1-year period of
It's not-
time.
That's my point. It's not a multi-year.
All right, so let me finish,
Yep.
and you're going to make me lose my train of thought.
All right.
So the issue is that you, as a board, decide how that is going to work.
Okay.
And so my very strong recommendation is we have a public hearing on Monday. We have no idea what our public hearing is going to divulge to us. I'm very much hoping that people are going to come forward and give us some great solutions to do this. My personal thought is a $300,000 addition for 1 year is not going to fly on our operating budget. I'm not sure this is going to pass, but I think people are already realizing this and starting to look at other creative solutions. So I'm going to recommend to you guys that we go through our public hearing first, and obviously this has to go on the warrant, and we can vote on it whichever way we wish, but there is a pathway out of this, and I do want to state, and I'm going to state it at the public hearing, it was never the intention of this board to eliminate recycling. All we were trying to do was find a more cost-effective way to do it without a 6-figure price tag. So I'm really hoping that on Monday, we can come up with some other issues that we can do. And don't forget, the citizens can always revote this dollar amount down. We cannot change the language, and we can't change the substance or the intent of this petition. But a citizen can certainly say, I put a motion on the floor to reduce it down to whatever it is that they want, or to 0 or whatever. But I mean, there's many options, and I would like to caution the board before they decide and make decisions. We do have to vote on the warrant, but please let's listen to what the people have to say so that we can put our heads together, and maybe we will come up with a third solution that will be able to do this, but without breaking the bank. So if there's no further discussion on this, I am going to call for a vote on this. All those in favor of recommending this, say aye.
Aye.
Before you
Oh.
do that,
All right, what?
I thought that we would give Jay a last comment. Unless
Did
you're
I
all
not give it to you? I'm sorry. I
No,
apologize.
I don't have any additional comments.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that everybody
All right.
had the opportunity to hear this. And what I'm really against is I'm really against the wording of this contract. That's what I'm really against.
Yeah.
And I want to say that when something like this happens, instead of have it happening at the very last moment, it would be much more helpful if the citizens were to come to the board, explain what they want, and we would then have the opportunity of crafting a much more thorough and well-thought-out warrant article in place of a petition. Now, if they want it on the petition, we would then be able to educate them to whatever limitations a petition might have. This was done at the very last moment. It was turned in on Tuesday at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock.
Oh, that reminds
So
me
it
of
was a
one
very,
more.
very last-minute type thing. And that's not, that shouldn't be the way. The citizens should be able to come to our board, and we should be helping them come across with their rights
Okay,
and
one,
help them.
one final comment from Jay, and then I'm going to call for a vote because it's getting late.
Well, we're having the public hearing a little late, but we probably could have had that sooner, a
Yep,
lot sooner.
you're right, you're right.
And found out
Yeah.
that sooner.
But better late than never.
Yeah.
So if there's no more discussion, all those in favor of supporting this petition or recommending this petition, say aye. Julian, is it you saying yes?
Think about this.
All right, you got 2
I'm going to
seconds.
support the petition. I think
Okay.
the citizens have a right
Are
to
you going to
vote.
support it as well, Jay?
When, are we going to be able to revote this after the?
Yeah, you can
Oh, yeah.
revote it at
Public
deliberative, and
hearing.
don't forget,
We get more
deliberative could
information, you
change
can
this
change.
whole thing. This could change the whole thing,
No,
so
after the public hearing next week.
after our
on Monday.
deliberative
After
session.
deliberative.
Yeah, because we don't know what's going to happen at deliberative, and anything can happen. So we'll listen to the people, and we can totally revote it at deliberative session.
I'm going to vote in favor of it because
Okay.
I am in favor of curbside recycling. so.
Okay, so all those, did you say yes?
And one question, one addition to what Jay says. If we decide, and if our contract negotiations go a little longer, this allows us to add recycling back beyond the cost we already have in our contract. So maybe I'm looking for the silver lining here. The silver lining is it unties our hands, because if we decide to do recycling after things or other contracts are made, it allows us a little leeway, because you can't spend money you don't have, which would tie our hands to not have recycling until next
Okay.
year.
All right.
So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, we do, we do.
I'm supporting it because I believe in the people's right to petition. It doesn't make us do it, like you said.
That's exactly
But
right.
it unties our hands to do it
Okay.
if we have a good solution.
All right, so
with that, Jay?
so far I have 2 votes for.
Yeah, I'm for it.
I'm not going to support this because I think it's way too much money, and I think it needs to be readjusted, but that's just me. Greg, what do you?
I'm not supporting this
Okay.
for the reason that it is poorly crafted.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
was not, really
All
does
right.
not accomplish what it says it's looking to do, which is a multi-year contract.
Okay, so technically, the motion fails, but because it's a citizen's petition, we're required to keep it on the ballot. So we have one more, and I'm going to make this really quick, you guys. This is another citizen's petition. It's a resolution for fair, nonpartisan redistricting, and it's basically to prevent gerrymandering. Do we want to read this out and vote on it really quickly?
Read it.
All right, read it fast.
New Hampshire Resolution for Fair Nonpartisan Redistricting, Article P21-21. Shall the town vote to urge the New Hampshire General Court, which is obligated to redraw the maps of political districts within the state following the federal census, to ensure fair and effective representation of the New Hampshire voters without gerrymandering. Additionally, shall the town vote to urge the New Hampshire General Court to carry out the redistricting in a fair and transparent way through public meetings, not to favor a particular political party, to include communities of interest, and to minimize multi-seat districts. Finally, shall the town vote to allow the record of the vote approving this article to be transmitted by written notice from the Selectmen to Plaistow's state legislators, informing them of the demands from their constituents
Constituents.
within 30 days of the vote, majority vote required.
All right, that's pretty clear, self-evident, so I'm going to ask for a motion to recommend.
I'll make a motion that we recommend this to the ballot.
All right. we
I'll
have a s-
second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Well, we didn't
Oh,
have a
Jay, do
discussion.
you have a discussion? Go
I
ahead.
just have a quick question. So I wasn't here when we did the last census. I don't know if maybe Julian was.
No, I
Was
wasn't
this something, was there something similar that was on the warrant in the past? That,
Never.
I've never seen this,
census?
no.
Never
no.
seen it. Whatever political party comes to power, gets the opportunity to redraw the lines.
Right.
So, all those in favor,
We don't have
say
to-
aye. You have one more comment? One more quick one. Okay.
I know it says it has nothing to do with politics, and it's nonpartisan. And I brought this forward to our state, one of our state reps to ask him, where did this come from? Have you ever seen it before? And I was educated on the state constitution and who decides districts. This has no binding effect on anything, regardless of this vote. It is governed by state constitution, and it's going to be coming up soon. And I don't believe a selectman, who we're supposed to be nonpartisan, we're not Democrat, we're not Republican, we're not independent in this room, regardless of what we do outside the room or how we vote. And I find it, I can't vote for this, but I won't vote against it
Okay,
because
can
I
you-
don't think I should be involved
All right.
in something that is political.
So is it your intent to abstain?
My intent is to abstain, but I
Okay.
want to explain why.
Okay,
I
that's a
don't
great
think I
explanation.
should be saying anything one way or the other, because yes, the yes or no vote does favor a party in reality, even though it says nonpartisan.
Okay.
And knowing the way the state, if you have concerns of how the process works, it should be addressed to the state level, to your
Right.
representatives. So if anything, this vote is nothing but a message to the state representatives on how they feel about it. And then the
Okay.
state representatives in our government, above the town level, acts upon it.
Okay.
So I'm not against it, I'm just not going
All
to
right.
make my view known because I don't think it's my place.
Okay, all right, so you had a great explanation. Is there any more comment before I call for a vote? All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
abstain.
Staying.
Okay, so 2 for and 2 abstain, and we are finally done with these warrants. Okay, so the only other thing that I wanted to mention, and Greg
You mean
Colby, I
20
hope
you mean
you're...
202.
20, yeah, that's what I said,
You said
202.
24.
Did I say 4? Sorry, okay. So Greg Colby, I know that there is, some of these articles are not numbered correctly, so I guess I'm going to ask...
How are they not numbered correctly?
I have 2 P21s here. Establish a Heritage Commission has P2121, and the New Hampshire Resolution is P2121.
That
So
would be 22.
who would you like for, I mean, Greg Talon, are you, or Beth, are you the one that's going to go through
Beth has
these?
the
and-
master copy of the Word
All right,
document.
okay, I
Beth,
just,
do you feel comfortable making these changes?
all right, so if you need anybody to proofread, just give us a yell, and one of us will do it for you.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, yep. And so Greg Colby, are you all set with all the stuff that you need from us? I think we've signed off on the default budget for you and the MS5. All the selectmen have done that, and that should be in the folder. So is there any more information or any more stuff you need from us before we let you go?
I don't believe so.
All right.
I'm waiting for DRA's recommendations and review of the ones that I submitted, so
We're good to go? All right,
as
excellent.
far as, yep.
All right, and seeing as it's so late, I was not expecting all of these discussions to go this late. We have 4 non-public discussions with regards to legal that we need to go through tonight. Go ahead, Jay.
Are we gonna do any of these other items? in
And that's
public?
what I was going to ask the board. It's at your pleasure. So if you want to discuss all this stuff, we can, but you're going to be here late, or we can forego this for another time, so I'm open. Does the board want to continue
Can
any
we
of
do
these?
the non-public and then have these other items taken care of after?
Well, we'll have to go back into public session, which means Frank is going to have to stay through non-public.
I'm not following you. I said non-public is the last thing we have to do.
Right.
And then we could have the town manager's report and the action item and these other things
First.
taken care of Monday.
That's what I just said.
I'm sorry.
Or at least that's what I meant, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I meant, but I'll leave it to the board's pleasure. Go ahead, Jay.
Can I just ask one question about deliberative session?
Sure, yeah, we're going to go over that on Monday too, but
We're
go
going to
ahead.
talk about that Monday, but
Yep.
how many people can we, I'm not saying there's going to be a great turnout, like a huge turnout, but what's the capacity that we're allowed to have, and is there accommodations for overflow if necessary?
Yes, actually, Greg and I had that you are a genius, because we had the same conversation with Mark exactly this morning. So I believe we can fit approximately 100 people on the floor, and we walked it today and we looked at it. Now, by law, our moderator cannot refuse anybody entrance, so if there is an overflow, they're going to have to open up the big garage doors and let people
Standing in the back,
be able to
or-
see. The Secretary of State also told us that it's either 100% personal participation or 100% virtual, so we can't do any hybrid stuff. So unfortunately, that means John Blinn is still under quarantine, and he is not going to be able to participate at the deliberative session. So when we discuss our warrant articles, it's going to be just us 4 cupcakes. And so I am going to request that unless you guys want to change a particular vote on these warrants, that we not revote them, because I don't want to dilute our vote from a 5-0-0 to a 4-0-0. We can revote after deliberative session, absolutely, because things may get changed, but that's why I didn't go over all the warrants tonight, because I don't want to do that, so I hope you guys are okay with that. Go ahead, Greg.
There's also space on the mezzanine, so there's stairs going up, and so people who are not Plaistow citizens can go, so there's an overflow as well.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a lot more about that on Monday, but go ahead, Julian.
So we're having a meeting this Monday?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure, because
Yeah, we
I
are.
heard that he was going to be back by this Monday, but he just have to be remote for the meeting.
Yeah, he will be remotely
For
here
this
at the
meeting.
25th meeting, but he's not allowed to
Right,
participate in
but-
deliberative.
So
because he's gonna
we
be
could
quarantined.
revote a warrant article
He can vote on
Monday.
Yes.
We'll have 5 selectmen Monday, possibly.
I'm sorry, did you say he could vote on the warrant article?
We could vote on these warrant articles if they want to revote, because he
No.
didn't get the vote in all of them.
Late,
It's
it's
too
too
late.
late. It has to be posted Monday, so it's done.
Yeah, this is done,
Yeah.
and then if he was present at the deliberative session, then he would be able to make
All
a
right,
vote
then
on those.
that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So anyway, getting back to what you want to do you guys want to do a town report and all this other stuff, or do you want to forego it till Monday? Jay, what's your thought?
We can forgo it till Monday.
All right, forego, yeah, I'm good with that too. So if there's no other business that we, go ahead, Mark.
Yes. There's one minor thing, the email in your folder about the painting in the room about the Indian frozen in the tree.
Oh, I
from-
didn't see that. Yep, I know, yes, you're right. Thank you for reminding me. I know you talked to me about it, and I don't know where it is, but
The Indian in the room or the elephant?
The Indian painted is.
there, yes.
The one that was,
No, it's on the stairs.
So apparently there was,
Oh, no, it's in the corner.
Yeah, it's over here.
so we should have found a place to hang that.
so there was an email from Jim Peck requesting that be moved to the Plaistow Historical Society, and Mark wanted us to get permission from the board to do that. I personally see no issue with that whatsoever. If it's in the corner, why wouldn't we do
I
that?
have no
Go ahead,
problem with
Julie.
it either.
I saw the correspondence, and it's so people could see it, but nobody goes in the Historical Society except Old Home Day, so nobody's ever going to see it.
Well, they're not going to see it in the corner.
Well, I think we should have just put it up somewhere.
Well, all right.
It's a beautiful painting and has historical value, and I'm just, it's my fault too, because I didn't take good notice of it. We should have put it up somewhere.
To my understanding,
should be in
the
the
family
stairway.
of the artist was requesting this.
Well, it's only because we left it there, is the
Well,
reason.
Okay,
All right,
so
so-
it's their request.
So may I have a motion on the floor
Make a
to
motion
approve
that we
it?
allow this painting in question to be moved to the Plaistow Historical Society based on request from the family of the artist.
Okay, may I have a second on that? Yeah, here it is, okay. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? All right, so that
I would just
motion
like to ask
carries.
the family who requested it, that if we found a good place to put it up, would they still leave it in Town Hall where people could see it?
All right, well, we will leave
'Cause
that to you.
it's a shame that once it goes to, no one sees anything there, really, even Old Home Day.
All right, well, the motion is to approve 400 to bring it to the Plaistow Historical Society.
Exactly.
And if you want to make inroads into that, please do so. That's not an issue. So if there is no other business, Greg and Mark, thank you for reminding me of that because I didn't see it in my package. There's no other business for this board. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:17, and I am going to ask for someone to put a motion on the floor to enter into non-public at 8:17. Julian?
For what reason?
We have, there's four non-public sessions, and it's under legal, so you can put it under L.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to enter non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2,
L,
L, consideration of legal advice.
all right.
I'll second. I just have a question. Are we going to be coming in and out of non?
Yeah, we have to do 4 different sessions, and I'm sorry, but that's like the
No,
proper way
I
to
was
do
just
it.
asking.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, no, you're right, And somebody will keep me right on that. Greg will keep me right on the proper policy and procedure of that, because I always forget it. Okay, so, may I have a roll call vote? Yes.
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 All right, so we are now exiting our public session. We will not be returning to public session tonight. So I'm going to say goodnight to everybody who's watching, and we are now in non-public session. I'll go close the door.